Hello everyone, welcome to Baji Rao IAS Academy previous year question paper analysis. So in this session we will discuss few previous year questions. So we will understand how we can structure those questions and how we can address the answers for these questions. So as part of this discussion we will try and understand about these questions like Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan question is being asked. Okay, so how it helps India promote self-reliance and self-sufficiency. So if you remember, particularly after COVID-19 pandemic, India has emphasized on self-sufficiency and self-reliance, particularly with respect to the supply chain resilience. So because during COVID-19 pandemic, we all know how supply chains have disrupted because of the prolonged lockdowns in different parts of the world. So therefore, the government has focused on increased supply chain resilience and also achieving self-sufficiency and self-reliance, so that India will not depend on, for major uh, products, India will not depend on other countries. So, Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan program has been launched by our Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So, Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan program involves a set of economic package tune of 10 percentage of India's GDP. Okay, so this is the part of Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. So over a period of time, this ensures India become a self-reliant and self-sufficient economy. Now, if you understand what is Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan or Atmanirbharata, so Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan or Self-Reliant India campaign is actually a vision for new India. So you very often come across the word like a vision for new India. So therefore, Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan envisions a vision for new India. Now, in this context, Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced special economic and comprehensive package. Okay, so the total value of the package is 20 lakh crore. So this is amounts to 10 percentage of India's total GDP, right? So Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan involves a package of 10 percentage of India's total GDP. So the financial or fiscal measures that were being taken as part of the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan will ensure that India will become self-reliant and self-sufficient over a period of next 5 to 10 years. So we need to understand the objectives of Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. So what are the basic objectives of this particular program? Okay, so the basic aim of the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan is making country self-reliant and self-sufficient. So we understood about that. Okay, so apart from making India a self-reliant economy, a self-reliant country, and citizens have to be independent and self-reliant. So as part of this, it has identified 5 pillars of the economy. Okay, so what are those 5 pillars? So they include economy. So achieving robust levels of economic growth is one of the pillars of the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. Now India is the fastest growing major economy in the world, growing at a rate of around 6.5 percentage annually. Now, even if you look at countries like China, US, South Korea, Japan, so they are also growing at around 3 to 4 percentage per annum. Now, India is the fastest growing major economy. So, India has certain strength. So, leveraging on those strength and further maximizing its economic growth rate. So, thereby, better distribution of the fruits of economic growth would be a possibility. So after that, the government will also focus on infrastructure development. So we have launched Gati Shakti National Master Plan and also National Monetization Program. So these programs ensure that India's infrastructure would be developed further, because infrastructure development is very important to attract industries. Okay, so and also reduce the logistic cost and facilitate ease of doing business. So therefore infrastructure development also plays a very crucial role in making India Atmanirbhar Bharat. So apart from that, the system system which includes the institutions, the governance institutions. So all these factors will come under system. So this will also be taken care of. So vibrant demography. So India is the only country which has largest demography. Okay, so therefore we also have a demographic window for the next 20 years. Demographic window. So in this particular context, it is very important for India to develop, you know, our economies using the demographic window or using the vibrant demography. So demand is the last pillar of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Okay, so these are the five pillars which are being outlined as part of the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. So apart from that, the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan has also focused on cutting down import dependency. So if you look at India's major imports, so we have been importing fossil fuels and LNG and active pharmaceutical ingredients, automobiles, and also electronic items. So therefore, the overall objective of the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan is achieving import dependence. Okay, so how we can achieve import dependence? By substitution. So when we give a sustained push to our domestic manufacturing, so we can cut down our import dependence. So thereby improving the safety compliance and also further produce quality goods. Okay, so when we produce the quality goods, the competitiveness at the global level will increase. Okay, so our goods will be more competitive at the global level. So thereby we can compete with the countries, the manufacturing powerhouses like China. So now we are living in a globalized world. In a globalized world, competitive markets and competitive economies are very important to achieve trade surplus. Okay, so now Chinese growth can be assumed to its rapid and robust exports. So therefore, through focusing on Atmanirbhar Bharat, India could also enhance its overall exports. Now, the next aspect of Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan is that it signifies neither any exclusionary or isolationist strategies. Now, many experts in many countries have, interpreted Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan as part of the protectionist policy. Okay, so what is protectionist policy? It opposes globalization. It opposes the free trade and it enhances the tariffs on the goods. However, Atmanirbhar Bharat is not an exclusionary or an isolationist strategy. Rather, it is integrating or it is integration of Indian economy with the rest of the world. So therefore, this is not inward looking or exclusionary strategy. Okay, so this involves creation of a helping hand to the whole world. So this is also primarily guided by the philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Okay, so the entire world is one family. So India's policies, whether it is Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan or any other policy, is largely guided by the policy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So therefore, it should not be viewed as an exclusionary or isolationist policy. Okay, so Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan has also, given importance to the local products or local manufacturing. So if you come across the word like uh, vocal for local, okay, so vocal for local. So this is part of giving impetus or rejuvenating local products. So they can be sold at the global level, generating markets for these local products. And Government of India also launched a program called One District, One Product scheme. So this is also part of the local product rejuvenation program. Okay, part of the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. So as part of the Atmanirbhar Bharat mission, the government has taken several reforms, several key reforms. So they include the supply chain reforms for agriculture sector. So country like India, agriculture sector is very important. Okay, so therefore supply chain reforms will ensure that agriculture sector will have a better productivity, and there will be a better price discovery and increasing farm incomes. Secondly, rational tax systems. So what does rational tax systems means? So it actually means that recently corporate tax has been rationalized. Corporate tax has been rationalized by the government of India. So this measure has been taken to attract further foreign investments into India. So after that, the simple and clear laws, particularly to promote ease of doing business in India, and also capable human resources and strong financial systems. So these measures will ultimately help achieving the goal of self-reliance in a much more faster way. Okay, so these are the measures that were taken as part of the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. Now, whatever we have discussed is again given here. So Atmanirbhar Bharat is actually a road ahead. So it includes five pillars. So what are those pillars? The pillars include economy, infrastructure, system, demography, and demand. So these are the five pillars of Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. So in this context, so economy means there will be a quantum jumps, but not just an incremental changes in the Indian economy. Okay, so quantum jumps means there will be a robust structural reforms in the Indian economy. So that leads to the quantum jump in the economic growth and economic development. So after that, when we talk about infrastructure, so infrastructure that represents the modern India. So we have seen government has launched several programs like national monetization pipeline, so and national infrastructure pipeline, national monetization program, and national prime minister, you know, national master plan, PM Gati Shakti program, and the system. Okay, the entire system is technology driven. So that means e-governance and ICT driven governance. And after that, the vibrant demography of the largest democracy. So India is the largest democracy, and we also have one of the largest demography in the world. So therefore, vibrant demography of the largest democracy. So after that, the focus will also be on demand. Okay, so full utilization of power of demand and supply. So we have the demography and also the largest populous country. So therefore, the demand and supply are very crucial in order to attract the foreign investment and also further improve the performance of domestic manufacturing sector. So because of this reason, these five pillars have been identified. So as part of the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, certain fiscal stimulus measures have been undertaken. So they include a package of 20 lakh crore, about 10% of India's GDP has been announced recently. So after that, the focus will also be on land, labor, liquidity, and loss. So this can be called as focus on 4L. So what is 4L? Land, labor, liquidity, and loss. So apart from that, the focus will be on labor, middle class, cottage industries, MSMEs, and industries will be given a concerted or sustained push. So therefore, India's goal of self-reliance or Atmanirbharata can be achieved. So as part of it, a few bold reforms have been undertaken. So we already discussed them: supply chain reforms for agriculture, rational tax system, simple and clear laws, capable human resources, and strong financial systems. So these are bold reforms that were already taken as part of the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. Now, what steps that can be taken to achieve the goal of the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan? Okay, so we need to take certain steps. Without taking those steps, we cannot achieve the goal. So, firstly, we need to build a strong strategy for the future. Okay, so for example, the strategy that should be centered around supply chains, and understanding the location advantages and location benefits of a particular area or the particular region, so that we can leverage the advantages of that particular area. So after that, we need to focus on open and free trade. Okay, so we should not be protectionist, we should not be inward looking when it comes to free and fair trade, and that too particularly trade where we have an advantage, where we have a competitive advantage. So for example, with Australia and United Arab Emirates, we already have such a free and fair trade agreement. So that will help further boost India's trade competitiveness. So therefore, India should become increasingly open to free and fair trade. So therefore, this will further attract investors by leveraging India's strengths. So, apart from that, we should focus on developing and supporting innovators. So, one of the main problem with respect to India is lack of a robust intellectual property regime. So, even though there were innovations, but innovations were not rightly recognized. So, therefore, focus on developing and supporting these innovators and innovations, particularly in areas like STEM. Okay, what is STEM? STEM is science and technology, engineering and medicine, digital, creative, and critical thinking. So in these areas, so the innovation has to be recognized so that it can help us in solve new age problems. So it also helps make India self-reliant and achieve Atmanirbharata. So apart from that, India should also develop innovator friendly intellectual property policy and also the enforcement regime. So we already have put in place the property intellectual property policy 2016. So therefore, right implementation of this policy is the need of the hour. So apart from that, we need to focus on enhancing the existing demand. So this requires the stimulus and that enhancing demand across the economy. Okay, so the best way that we can do this through spending on greenfield infrastructure projects. So there are two types of infrastructure projects: greenfield projects and brownfield projects. So greenfield infrastructure projects are new projects. So this is about the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. So you can just write a way forward. This can be a way forward in conclusion. So just this way forward is enough in this answer. So the next question is about the gig economy. So critically evaluate gig economy in formal and informal sectors in India. So what is the role of gig economy? Now gig economy has been assuming significance in recent past. So in this respect, we need to understand what is the role of gig economy in both formal and informal sectors in India. So what is gig economy? So please understand, if there is an individual, so he is employed with a company. Okay, so based on a particular task or a transaction basis. Okay, so he also have the flexibility to choose their own work hours. Okay, so there's no rigid work hour environment. It is like a freelancing job. Okay, so you all know about the freelancing job. So it has the flexibility of working hours, and it is like a a task based employment. So that is categorized as gig economy. So if we look at the data with respect to a gig economy, so around 15 million freelancer workers across various sectors. So 15 million means 1.5 crore individuals have been engaged in the gig worker. So according to an estimate, the gig economy can rise up to 90 million. Okay, so this could create potentially 90 million new jobs by the year 2029 2030. Okay, so in near future it could create another 90 million jobs. So if you look at the composition of the gig economy, the workforce engagement, around 42 percentage of gig workers have engaged in IT design and management. Okay, so 42% of the total gig workers have engaged in higher skill freelancing work. So followed by 17% of gig workers in care, wellness, and teaching, and this is remaining. So 19% of the gig workers have engaged in low skill gig work, such as cleaning and deliveries and ride sharing. So we can understand gig economy better. So what are some key players in the gig economy market? For example, so people who have engaged with Uber and Ola, so they offer ride services. So they are also part of gig economy. And food delivery, places like platforms like Swiggy, Zomato, delivery. So they are also part of the gig economy. And people who have been engaged with these platforms are also called as gig workers, right? Now, in this context, this recently a report. So, whenever you write an introduction, it is better to quote such a report in the introduction. So, recently, Niti Aayog has released a report. So, in this particular report, the name of the report is India's Booming Gig and Platform Economy. So, this is the name of the report. So, this particular report has estimated that in the year 2020 and 2021, around 77 lakh workers have engaged in the gig economy. So total 7.7 million workers have engaged in the gig economy. So these 77 lakh gig worker constitute around 2.6 percentage of the total non-agriculture workforce. Okay, so they also constitute 1.5 percentage of the total workforce in India. Okay, so they are just 1.5 percentage of the total workforce. So however, according to the Niti Aayog data, that the gig economy or the gig workers could rise by 2.35 crore. Okay, so this amounts to around 23.5 million crore by 29 and 30. So this is the estimate of Niti Aayog with respect to the gig economy. Given here, the same report has mentioned about the engagement of the gig workers in various sectors. So most of the gig workers have engaged in retail and trade sales. Okay, so 26.6 lakh. So followed by transportation, finance, insurance, marketing, and education. So Niti Aayog report has also categorized gig workers who have engaged in different skilled jobs. Okay, so around 22% have engaged in high skilled jobs, followed by 31% in low skilled jobs and 47% in medium skilled jobs. Okay, so next is that, okay, so what is gig economy? So what is gig economy? So gig economy is actually a free market system. Okay, so this is some like a basic definition of a gig economy. So gig economy is a free market system in which temporary positions, or if a particular individual is employed or engaged with a company, he is engaging with the company on a temporary basis. So this is what the gig economy is. So which is a temporary position? They are very common. These temporary positions are very common in this gig economy or the gig market system. Okay, so these organizations actually have a contract with the independent workers. So if they have completed that particular task, so the contract will be over with the company. However, one thing we need to note here is that it is a short-term employment. Gig employment is a short-term employment. Okay, so this is the basic definition of a gig economy. So who is a gig worker? A person who actually performs the work and participate in work arrangement, and he earns money based on per task basis. Okay, so this is actually the outside of the traditional employer and employee relationship. Okay, so there is no traditional employer and employee relationship in gig worker. Now we need to understand the potential of India's gig sector. So what exactly the potential of India's gig sector? So according to an estimate, around 56 percentage of new employment that is being created in India is generated from gig economy alone. So India's gig economy has a huge potential of generating employment. So around 56 percentage of new employment in India is being generated from gig economy alone. So after that, gig economy can serve up to 90 million jobs in the non-farm sector. Okay, so going ahead in the near future, gig economy can contribute to 90 million. So 90 million amounts to around 9 crore. So 9 crore jobs in non-farm sector in India. So and even it has the potential to add around 1.25 percentage to the India's GDP in the long term. So this is the potential of India's gig economy. So apart from that, so we also have the goal of uh, you know becoming a $5 trillion economy by the year 2025. So we have been envisioning that we can become a $5 trillion economy by 2025. So in this context, gig economy has a very large role to play. So in this particular goal, gig economy is considered as a building block, a major building block. So this particular gig economy can bridge the income and unemployment gap. So a country like India, unemployment is a major challenge. The rate of unemployment has been growing at a rapid pace, and because of huge unemployment and lack of entrepreneurship, we are not able to create enough employment. We are not able to utilize our existing demographic dividend. So this could be a major challenge. The demographic dividend can become a bane for us instead of boon. So therefore, India becoming $5 trillion economy, the gig economy also plays a very important role. So because please understand, the women workforce participation is very low in Indian economy. So it is around 18 percentage of total population who are at the working age, particularly among women. However, gig economy has the potential to increase the women workforce participation. So bring working women into the fold of a formal sector or a calculation of GDP. So therefore, in this respect, there are certain issues with respect to the gig economy. So what are those major issues in the gig economy? So first and foremost, we have to discuss about the accessibility factor. Now, see, gig economy is majorly based on internet access is very important. So therefore, access to internet services and digital technology can be one restrictive factor for gig economy. So therefore, this has to be looked into. So the accessibility factor has to be looked into. So because of lack of accessibility coupled with the digital divide, we also have the problem of digital divide. So lack of accessibility along with the digital divide have making gig economy is like an urban phenomenon. So it is only limited to the urban areas. Okay, it is largely limited to the limited as an urban phenomenon. So apart from that, the gig workers lack job and income security. So job and income security is very important for the gig workers. Okay, so they very often do not get the benefit from the labor regulations. So yes, there are labor regulations, but they are outside the traditional employee-employer relationship. So because of this reason, the benefits such as wages, regulation of wage hours, better working conditions, and safe working conditions, these regulations are generally not extended to the gig workers. So this is the major problem. So because of this reason, they also have a limited collective bargaining power. So this is another major limitation that the gig workers have been facing. So after that, the occupational safety and health risks of these gig workers. For example, a gig worker who is working with an online food delivery. So in case of an accident, what about the insurance? What about the safety and security of that particular individual who is engaged with the food delivery platform? So therefore, it is very important to provide occupational safety and mitigate the health risks of these gig workers. So, they have been facing various safety and health risks. So, these have to be taken care of. These have to be further minimized so that the real potential of the gig economy can be achieved. So, after that, the next major problem that they have been facing is that there's a lack of proper skills. There's a skill mismatch. The skills that the workers already have and the skills that industry demands is different. So that has resulted in a skill mismatch. So there are actually various varying degrees of vertical and horizontal skill mismatch. So that is being observed by the online web-based platforms. So in this respect, what should be the way forward? So in conclusion, you just write about the need for uh, promoting initiatives like Startup India. Okay, so on the lines of Startup India, we need to accelerate the platformization and skill development, social financial inclusion for these gig workers. So we need to provide a basic framework for the for all the gig workers, and this particular framework should balance the flexibility that is being offered by the platforms, and that should also include the social security dimension for the workers. So this is how you can conclude this answer. So the next question is with respect to micro, small and medium enterprises. Okay, so MSMEs. So the question has been asking, explain how MSMEs are actually major drivers of economic growth in India. So, but they were neglected. They were not included under the production linked incentive scheme. Production linked incentive scheme. Now, we already know that around 14 sectors have been included in the production linked incentive scheme, but the benefits of PLI have not extended to the MSME sector. So, in this respect, we need to understand how MSMEs are major drivers of India's economic growth. So, why they are being neglected by the production linked incentive scheme. So, what should be the way forward? Right. So please understand some facts and data related to the MSME sector. So MSMEs actually play a vital role in India's economic growth. Okay. So they are actually called as a growth engine of Indian economy. So yes. So why they are called as growth engine of Indian economy? It's because they have been contributing for the 51 million small and micro enterprises across the country. So we have around 51 million SMEs across the country. Secondly, they generate employment for 120 million people. Okay, so 120 million people means around 12 crore people have been getting employed by the MSE sector alone. So apart from that, the contribution of MSE sector is around 38 percentage. So that is huge. So in fact, if you look at a contribution of the agriculture sector, it is hovering around 17 percentage and 18 percentage of the GDP. But on the other hand, it has been employing 12 crore people and also contributing to 38 percentage of India's GDP. So it also accounts for 40 percentage of the total exports, and it has been registering a growth rate of around 20 percentage. So because of all these factors, MSME sector is known as the growth engine of the Indian economy. Now, in this respect, so how MSMEs are categorized into micro, small, and medium enterprises. So the categorization of MSMEs is based on the following, uh, phenomenon. So micro enterprises investment should not exceed 10 lakh rupees. So this is a micro unit. So small enterprise more than 10 lakh rupees of investment up to 2 crore. and medium enterprises, so 2 crore investment, and that should not exceed 5 crore of total investment. So this is the categorization of MSMEs. Now in this respect, so what is the significance of micro, small and medium enterprise sector for India? So firstly, it is a boon for rural development. So why it is a boon for rural development? Because the high-tech industries or the capital intensive industries, a large scale industries, they generally don't prefer the rural areas because lack of infrastructure and lack of availability of skilled workforce. So however, on the other hand, several micro units have been located in rural areas. Okay, so therefore MSMEs have been aiding in the industrialization in rural areas. So it has led to the industrialization of rural areas and also equitable regional growth. So because industries preferring few areas over other, that lead to inequitable growth. So however, MSMEs have been established in rural areas also, that led to industrialization of rural areas and also equitable regional development. So therefore, MSME's contribution is immense when it comes to countries' rural socio-economic growth, and also it has been successfully complementing the major industries. How? Because it has been supplying the essential raw materials that are required for these major industries. So apart from that, MSMEs have been considered as the front runners in Make in India program. So Make in India program has been launched to promote or encourage domestic manufacturing. So however, we cannot imagine the success of Make in India without MSMEs. So therefore, India has been aimed at Make in India, and Make in India also means that made for the world. So adhering to the global quality standards. So because of all these factors, MSMEs have been acquiring the center stage in the Make in India initiative. Okay, so because of all these factors, MSME has emerged as the backbone in making the dream a possibility, the success of Make in India a possibility. So apart from that, the economic growth and leveraging exports. So as I have already discussed that 38 percentage of total exports have been coming from the MSME sector alone. Okay, so in this context, MSME sector is a growth engine, a, an engine for the economic growth, and this could also leverage India's exports. So that could further drive India's total GDP growth to the tune of around 8 percentage of the GDP. So in fact, so if you look at the MNCs, the multinational companies, they have been purchasing the semi-finished and auxiliary products from these micro units or small enterprises. So therefore, now it has emerged as a potential link between these MNCs and also the micro and small enterprises. So this is the significance of MSME sector for a country like India. Now, what are the challenges the MSME sector has been facing as of now? So it has been facing a lot of challenges. For example, it has been suffering with the financial constraint. So for the success of any organization or any unit, access to institutional credit is very important. But when it comes to the MSMEs, only 16 percentage of the total MSMEs have access to financial credit, to institutional credit. So that is the major factor which has been hindering the growth of these micro units. So therefore, access to finance is very crucial for these MSMEs. So apart from that, MSMEs have lack innovation. So in earlier question also we have understood lack of innovation is a major challenge. So in fact, majority of the products that were being produced in MSMEs are produced on outdated technologies. So what happens with the outdated technologies? Productivity is very poor and it takes a lot of time. and even a lot of labor also. So because of these reasons, they continuously face the losses. Okay, so after that, because of these outdated technology, they facing low levels of productivity. So whenever we compare it with larger firms, so because of this reason, the products which are being produced by the MSMEs are less competitive. So less competitive means that exports, their export potential would be further hindered. In fact, majority of the small firms, around 80 percentage of MSMEs, so out of total MSMEs, 80 percentage of the units are the small firms. In fact, small firms have less bargaining power. So they run on outdated technologies. They lack access to the financial credit, the institutional credit. So therefore, there's a communication gap and lack of awareness. Okay, so they cannot take advantage of the government's emergency line of credit. So government has announced the emergency line of credit as part of the COVID-19 pandemic to revive these MSMEs. Okay, so because of lack of communication gap and lack of awareness, they cannot take advantage of the government's emergency line of credit. So after that, there is also a lack of formalization among MSMEs. So MSMEs have been suffering with the problem like the lack formalization, and this has been contributing to the credit gap among MSMEs. So in this respect, what should be the way forward for revival of these MSMEs? So including these MSMEs in the production linked incentive scheme is a welcome step. So the government should reconsider including MSMEs in the productive linked incentive scheme, but because that will help these industries compete with the large industries. So their role as a engines of economic growth would be further strengthened if government recognizes the role of these MSMEs and extending the benefits of PLI to these industries. So apart from that, the set of measures that would be taken. So firstly, industry academia linkages. So there should be a greater connection between government and industry academia. Okay, so these connection, these linkages will help these MSMEs identify the evolving requirements and needs of manufacturing, and then they can prepare the workforce. And then they can prepare the employable workforce, and they ready for the industrial revolution 4.0. So after that, we should also create a dedicated MSME portal. Okay, so dedicated MSME portal will help in registration of all these units. Okay, so that will help in formalization of the MSME. So initially that will bring transparency and will also help in reducing frauds and misappropriation of MSME data. So after that, there should be a full-fledged marketplace for MSMEs. So full-fledged marketplace, so that can help sellers can develop a forward, backward linkages. So ultimately that would make MSMEs more profitable. So that is the essence of competitive growth of these MSMEs. So in this way, you can conclude this answer. So the next question is with respect to the sustainable agriculture, the need for sustainable agriculture practices in India. So recently, if you look at India's agriculture, it has been making a rapid transformation towards sustainability practices. For example, so we have been adopting organic farming, zero budget natural farming. Okay, several other methods of sustainable farming has been adopted by the farmers. So why? Because of growing climate change, resource scarcity, and the need for enhancing or doubling farm incomes, and in fact ensuring food security, conservation of natural resources. These are the objectives of sustainable farming. So because of these reasons, we have been shifting towards the sustainable farming. Now, what is a sustainable agriculture? So sustainable agriculture is an integrated farming method that include people, planet, and that also include profits. Okay, so this is a farming practice. It uses the principles of ecology. Okay, so this is also based on relationship between different organisms and environment. So essentially, it is an integrated farming that takes into consideration the ecological, needs, ecological conservation needs. So it has been defined as an integrated system of planet, animal, production practices having a site specific application. Okay, so over a period of time, in the longer term, it will satisfy or address human food and fiber needs. So the needs of human food and fiber can be addressed by the sustainable agriculture. So it can also make the most efficient use of non-renewable resources. Okay, so we have a certain non-renewable resources, so they cannot renew at a much quicker pace. So therefore, this sustainable agriculture will make the most efficient use of non-renewable resources and also the on-farm resources, and it will result in natural biological cycles and controls, and it sustain the economic viability of the farm operations and also enhance the quality of life of farmers and as society as a whole. This is the sustainable agriculture. So in this respect, what are the methods which are being used as part of sustainable agriculture? So they include regular crop rotation. Now regular crop rotation is very important to prevent crop diseases which have been attacking a particular crop regularly. So in this way, farmers can minimize their losses. So after that, permaculture is also a very important sustainable agriculture method that has to be used. Okay, so that it can conserve moisture. So after that, cover crops. Okay, cover crops can also conserve moisture and enhance farm incomes and soil enrichment, natural pest predators, and bio-intensive integrated pest management, polyculture farming, agroforestry, biodynamic farming, and better water management. So these are all part of the sustainable farming methods. So in this respect, we have to understand what are the benefits of sustainable farming. Okay, so it optimizes inputs for agriculture production. So whatever inputs we have been using, for example, in recent times, input costs in agriculture have been increasing, and farmers' incomes have not increasing at such a rapid pace. Therefore, sustainable agriculture will help optimize the inputs for agriculture production, and it will also ensure that the long-term sustainability of the farming. Now, so farming is being viewed as unsustainable. Okay, it is not profitable in the long term. So therefore, several farmers have been coming out of the farming sector and they have been uh, engaging in the construction. So therefore, making farming profitable in the long term is one important benefit of sustainable agriculture. So it could also reduce the environmental impact of agriculture. So particularly because of the climate change and unpredictable environment, sustainable farming would reduce the environmental impacts of the agriculture sector, whether agriculture sector may be contributing to pollution, global warming, indirectly to climate change, and even zoonotic diseases. So therefore, sustainable farming will enhance the environmental sustainability also, and it increases the social acceptance for agriculture. Now, even youth will also engage in the agriculture sector actively. So, because sustainable farming practices would make agriculture more and more remunerative. That enhances the farm incomes. So after that, building a competitive advantage of the farming. So in fact, it will also improve the fertility and productivity of the farm soils, and that is the imperative for achieving food security. And when nutrition security. So because India's population expected to rise, even global population is also expected to rise. And India has identified as a key pillar in ensuring global food security. So because of this, it is very important that we switch over to the sustainable agriculture practices. And it also ensures animal welfare. See, the zoonotic diseases have been more frequent in recent past. So that has been disrupting the human health, so adverse impacts on human health and health infrastructure. So therefore, when we ensure animal health also, the frequency or the intensity of these zoonotic diseases can be further minimized. Okay, so these are the set of benefits of the sustainable agriculture. Okay, so it builds healthy organic soil, and it also improves soil health structure, and it reduces the soil erosion, whether wind erosion, water-based erosion, because if we adopt micro irrigation techniques rather than flooding the fields with water, so that could significantly minimizes erosion. So it could also increases the overall agriculture production and the productivity. So that is the essence of farmers realizing better prices for their produce. So after that, it could also increase the farm productivity and reduces the exposure of these crops to the chemicals and fertilizers, and it reduces the costs and improves the quality of life of the farmers and even the consumers as well. So in fact, it helps in protecting the local environments and reduces the use of chemicals, improves biodiversity, reduce pollution. It benefits consumers, improves food quality, diversity of diets, and increased nutrition. So, when it comes to the environmental degradation and the sustainability aspects, the sustainable farming reverses climate change and improves the carbon sequestration capacity of agriculture sector, and also controlling flood drought and reduces on-farm fuel usages. So these are the potential benefits and the advantages of the sustainable farming, sustainable farming methods. Okay, so when you write the conclusion, you mention the challenges. So you mention few challenges and also provide relevant suggestions. You can also write about the government schemes. For example, Pradhan Mantri Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana. So that was being launched. Okay, so to promote the organic farming, and even government has been providing impetus to the zero budget natural farming by drop more crop as part of the Pradhan Mantri uh, Krishi Sinchai Yojana. So you can mention all these programs in your answer. Okay. So that's all for today, and in tomorrow's lecture we will discuss few more questions. So if you like the video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel.